Hi everyone, we're here at the Inspired CIO conference and we're talking about the challenge that businesses have with the adoption of their AI. How do you get value from AI? Lots of people have invested heavily in the technology but aren't necessarily getting the business benefits from that. So we're going to talk about getting stakeholders on board, how you get senior leadership engaged, the people change thing.
The people change, so yeah, the adoption of any AI solution that an organization's putting in is how do you bring your people along on that journey so that they understand and have the awareness and the desire to adopt it, but then equally at the same time making sure you're having proper organizational impact with the AI solutions that you're putting in.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about agents, we're going to be talking about agent architectures. How are we going to do all this in 20 minutes? I have no idea. It's about an hour and a half's worth of content, but we're going to give it a run. I'm Sean Morris, CTO from Nasstar.
I'm Jack Fisher, Solutions Architect in the AI and Automation practice.
Right, thank you, we're on. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. To brush off an old gag from the last Inspired event, we know you have a choice of airlines, and thank you for joining us for this one. So we're going to talk to you today about trying to turn these AI programs that we're all running at into something that's got some kind of tangible business value. So I'm Sean Morris, I'm from a company called Nasstar. I'm the CTO. I'm very much focused on the Microsoft side of our business. We're unashamedly a Microsoft shop, but everything we say today will apply to any tech stack. It's all conceptual kind of engagement stuff. Joined by Jack. Say hi, Jack.
Yeah, nice to meet you all. Jack, Solutions Architect in AI and Automation in the Microsoft practice.
Thanks, buddy. Right, so I'm going to start with what we see as the addressable opportunity. This is from a piece of work that McKinsey did. It's getting a little bit old now. I probably need to refresh this, but the concept is really good and we really believe in it. So we think the opportunity for businesses for the application and adoption of this technology sits within that bottom right-hand corner, which is the 20% upside on the good bits of the business, right? Selling faster, selling more, generating more revenue, time to revenue, all that kind of stuff, time to value for new products and services, and 20% less cost associated with that, which is more around the efficiency conversation, automating business processes and that kind of stuff. Now, we've been talking to customers about this now for a good couple of years, and we've found some customers are rushing ahead with this and are making huge progress. Others are struggling a bit. Often what they're struggling around is the return on investment. I think businesses all of a sudden woke up and went, hang on, you're spending money on what? You know, bought a lot of licenses, haven't necessarily turned that into tangible business value. A lot of what we talk about is downstream from this piece of work that Microsoft funded last year, which is around this kind of concept of a frontier firm. I don't know whether you guys have read it. If you haven't, I would highly recommend it. Again, a bit old, but still very, very much relevant. And that broke the problem down, or broke the solution down, or the environment down to these three ideas where you've got humans in chat mode, which is often where a lot of us are today. Definite value to have there. Today in my flow of work, to quote Satya Nadella, I couldn't do what I'm doing today without access to these tools. Whether I'm more productive or not, it's up to my boss, but I'm definitely using it a lot. The next version of that is to start to bring agents into play within teams. How do you take tasks, decant task into an agent, have something that can run and do something really well? We'll touch on that in a second. But what they vision the future being, and this is, I think, somewhat true where it's going, is this concept of blended teams of humans and agentic working together inside a group to deliver an outcome.
Also, just quickly on that slide, I think that phase 3 place, I don't know any organisation that is fully there yet, but there's pockets of organisations that are in that phase 3, and it's how can we bring the rest of the organisation along on that journey together.
Yeah, I mean, we had a thing this week, actually, we're doing some work for a customer, and they said, we want to see a little bit of a mock-up of a demo. Yeah. And Jack was working on it, and he said, how do I demonstrate something that's all under the hood? I mean, this is all autonomous agentic work. There's no screen, there's nothing. We're dumping stuff on agents, they're doing their job, they're pushing it into a workflow, the work product they've created pops out somewhere else. And the interface is either a chat window or something in Teams or something like that.
How do you make that exciting?
How do you make that exciting for people? Yes, exactly. So what we're finding is, I think what's differentiating organizations that are making progress from those that are somewhat struggling is kind of encapsulated in these three concepts. I think where we're seeing some real progress is organizations that have got senior leadership buy-in. Many of you in this room are CIOs, you're sitting at the top of the business. You can't do this by yourself. You need to have engagement from other members of the board. You need to have engagement from line of business owners, for functional owners in the business who will get the benefit ultimately from the work that you're trying to do in your organization. Second thing is understanding the role of agents in all of this. I think people are still, not saying this room, you're all probably well up to this like I am, but you know, the role of agents and the whole agentic layer in this conversation. Again, I'm going to go off piece, it's going to take all the time. We were at a legal conference last week and I was talking to one of our legal customers, and he's got a problem where a legal agent has just been published by Anthropic, and he's like, I've just started this journey down the Microsoft Copilot thing. Anthropic's just dropped this agent out of the clouds. How do I bring this together? And we had an hour over lunch talking about agentic architectures and how I can surface some of this stuff through, again, in the Microsoft stack. I can furnish some of these foundation models up through Fabric. You can now get access to through Copilot to co-work, and how we could drop this agent in but remain true to his architecture that he's running. And we had this long chat about we need to be working this out together as we go. I certainly haven't got all the answers, but we need to make sure that we're not cutting off any routes forward. So I think keeping your architecture open, choosing what you do as you go is part of that thing.
Especially with how quickly it changes.
Yes.
Because like you said, it's like, what do I do today? You just got to do it today.
Yes.
And then in 6 weeks' time, you might have to change.
It's the new version of when's the right time to buy a new television.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, and the third one, and this is actually super, super important, and we're going to drill into this a little bit further, or Jack's going to, is the role, how you bring your people on the journey. How do you get this AI use into the hands of your people? How do you train them? How do you educate them? How do you get them to see different ways of working and new opportunities? A lot of the things that are going to move the needle are going to come out of your staff going, oh, I can see a use for this. Right. Haven't got time for 4. I'm just going to pick 2. So I'm going to let you go first, Jack, with the Fennec use case. Sorry, let me intro what we're doing. Yeah. This is an example of where we've found some value with some of our existing customers that might get the kind of juices flowing.
Yeah, so Fennec, this was over a year ago now, we demoed a pretty quick proof of concept of digital signage. So using an agent to create dynamic digital marketing content onto a digital sign within the store. It's hooked into like the weather app. So it can dynamically change and push different products at different times, create dynamic pricing, etc. We did that as a quick proof of concept. We're actually now back in talking to them, aren't we, about how we can take that further to start doing digital content on their website, various things like that. But most importantly, they get the importance of that adoption piece as well. So that has to be wrapped around it.
Yeah, so they're seeing value through this at the front of their business, trying to engage more people to buy more stuff and do more things. We're talking to them about other stuff, but that's probably the most relevant. Bottom left-hand corner is a London-based public sector organisation who looks after the roads. Can't use their name, but you can probably guess who it is. They had a requirement to build a system that was processing applications from the members of the public to do a thing. It doesn't really matter what the thing is, but they were about to hire 300 staff whose entire job it was to go through council tax bills, bank statements, proof of address, all that kind of stuff. We built an agent for that. It was a year or so ago, so it was relatively expensive to build, but they ended up hiring 40 people, right? So the cost benefit of that to them, they can process it, we're processing it way quicker, way more accurately. We can do thousands of applications an hour, whereas obviously the people could only do what they did. So there's a couple of examples, and forgive me for brassing through this. This is like a 50-minute presentation in 20 minutes, but a couple of examples where businesses that we're dealing with have unlocked some value. Statement from Gartner. I don't often quote Gartner, but I really like this one. So they are positing that by 2028, at least 15% of day-to-day decisions will be made autonomously. I think we're already starting to see this. I believe this is true. I believe this is part of the opportunity. So let's get on to the how. So what do you guys need to, and girls, need to be doing in order to successfully adopt and apply AI technologies in your business? So we, again, think this kind of fits into 3 buckets because it's a talk and they always fit into 3s. I think, again, that leadership, engagement, a program of change across your staff and organization. I touched on that earlier. And the tech readiness stuff, which I think we've all kind of done to death. Very happy to talk about that offline, but I think we understand the right one. We're probably struggling with the left one, and we're potentially not very far forward on the middle one. So let's just talk about people change for a second. Over to you, Jack.
So having people-centric change as part of any AI adoption program is absolutely critical. We use the ADKAR methodology from ProSci, but ultimately it's about getting to that first hurdle there, which is creating desire with your people to use AI. They need to understand why we're making a change, why we're putting AI in, how it's going to make their lives better, and then we need to get them to have that desire. And if we fail at that first hurdle, any AI, you could put the most incredible AI agents across your organization, but no one's going to use them if they have no desire to do so.
Okay, and how do we go about doing that, Jack? He says, leading you up for the next slide.
So all of these things, which I'm not going to read out, you can get a copy of the slides afterwards, but it's about having a phased approach, doing a pilot, early adopters, building a champions network across your organization. And we should have said at the start, this bit's the bottom piece, is getting your people up there, but there's another piece at the top that needs to be done in parallel. But things like prompt engineering, we had an interesting discussion with an organization the other day who said, actually, is prompting going to be a thing soon? Because AI is getting so much better at just picking up what you ask it to do. You don't need to necessarily have that structured framework. I don't think it's quite there yet.
Right, so just on that two paths through, I think, ideally, in our opinion, you should be doing two things at once. You should be starting at the bottom with your people, which is what Jack just referred to, and also looking for those kind of high value use cases inside the organization, starting at the top, coming down. You want to pick that one up, Jack?
Yeah, so like I said, that individual value is absolutely key. We need to bring your people up along on that journey, getting the foundational skills in place, making sure they understand what to do, when to do it, when to rely on AI to do it, and when the human touch needs to come in, and always keeping that human in the loop. That will naturally lead to that layer 2 of departmental value. But at the same time, we used to say, start here and do 1. You need to be doing 1 and 3 at the same time.
Okay. And if so, as far as engaging on that conversation at the bottom, you know, a methodology, an approach, if you will, to kind of kick that through, we've come up with an approach here that we're finding is quite effective. You want to pick that up?
And so it's getting ready. It's making sure you've got all the comms plans ready to go, all of that stuff that's foundational to putting in. It's not just AI, it's any piece of business change or technology you're putting into an organization. But then it's onboarding and engaging across the entire organization. Make sure that if you're doing a pilot and you're getting champions, you're not just focusing on one department, it needs to be across the whole organization. And then making sure that you're delivering impact, so measuring it. There needs to be KPIs, there needs to be return on investment calculations ongoing with that. And then phase 2, this is actually like that bit we talked about. Phase 2 is extending and optimizing into line of business applications. So actually that's the top of the pyramid. So we're saying do phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time and link them in.
That leads you nicely to this slide.
It does indeed. So phase 2, moving beyond time saving and agents. So we're not saying agents aren't a thing, but what we're saying is those kind of retrieval agents, those basic agents that you can build in a week, 2 weeks, that give you great responses. But ultimately, we need to be looking at autonomous agents and multi-agent orchestration. In fact, that slide's the perfect segue to it. So this is like a roadmap for your agentic journey. So we start off at the simple, and these can be really, really quick to put in. In fact, you can empower your users to build these retrieval agents. They can do it in things like Copilot Studio Lite or any other. It doesn't have to be Microsoft. But yeah, those ones are easy to create. They should be proliferating across your organization with the right governance and frameworks in place to make sure that you're not creating technical debt. But then we start to get far more value when we add tasks to these types of agents. And obviously the complexity increases as we move across the right, but getting an agent that can not only answer a question, but perform a task for you, and then onto those autonomous agents. So this is where, when we talk about the frontier firm, these agents are running in your organization, making decisions for you, and then going to humans to get that human in the loop when it's needed.
Right, just a little bit on architectures. Again, very much a Microsoft slide, but most of the major labs are kind of turning up with a stack much the same as this. So, you know, we've got this concept of kind of low code and pro code, and how does that fit together? How do you stitch that into line of business applications which are turning up with their own AI embedded inside the application? You know, each organization and each business stack will have a variation on this theme and how this works well, right? So we were talking to, again, another law firm, different one, this week, and they're a huge user of a tool called Harvey AI. It's big in legal. They've also got a case management system that's got its own AI in it, and they were saying to us, well, do we buy, do we build, do we integrate, do we sit in one, do we pick one over the other? I think the answer is we need to work together to find that out. But in the Microsoft world, again, that kind of very high-level task-based thing tends to be a Copilot Studio thing, tends to be something that's either developed very quickly by specialists, or as Jack said, we're trying to get citizen developers up to a point where they can develop that stuff within a governance framework.
Or citizen creatives, as they like to call them now.
Oh, my goodness, really?
They're not developers, they're creatives.
Creatives, okay.
They're citizen creatives.
Yes.
But also, a really interesting talking point on that is, how many times do we get asked by clients, where do I start? What do I do first? And actually the answer is it depends on the use case. We shouldn't be thinking, what technology do we use? It's what business problem are we trying to solve? And can we get to a great outcome as quickly as possible? Which tends to lend itself to that middle layer, but you need to be ready to step into the higher complexity pro code thing when it's required. But then equally use the tools, and this ties back to that adoption piece. The top layer there are first party tools that Microsoft or Claude or Gemini, whoever releases them, make sure that your users know how to use them to solve their own business problems. And that's a really key point, I think.
Sure. So, I mean, ironically, we ran 5 minutes over last time. We're actually under this now. I stripped a bunch of slides out. So, I mean, I think just to touch on that agentic architecture perspective, I think when we talk to our customers, we're kind of coming at this at 3 layers. There's an AI strategy layer, which is, how is this going to impact you? What's the opportunity for your business? How can we articulate that in a way that starts to show some of the investment returns back to people who've got to sign the checks? We then would move into an adoption phase where we're developing agents, we're building some of the plumbing out, we're getting those kind of rules in place across the systems to make sure it all works. And then the bottom layer is kind of AI readiness, which we break down into 3 chunks. You've got the infrastructure bit, which is, have you got the right security? Is your data in the right place? Have you got access to the stuff? We've got a data one, which is often around unified data platforms. Not so important at the top level. A lot of the top level stuff tends to be data that's unstructured, it's accessible, it's in emails, it's in files, it's very easy to get. When you start getting into the line of business application world, obviously you need to have some rich data there.
And actually, I think the magic can happen there when you've got something that's going over that unstructured data. Then you've got a really good agent that can go through that unified data platform and merge the 2 together.
Yeah,
that's where the real return on investment is.
Yeah, and the last thing is your application estate. So, I mean, it's not particularly palatable to go swapping out major line of business apps, but certainly getting them into a place where we can access them, we can get to them from a data platform. I would, of course, say they should be in cloud. I'm a little bit biased, but even if they're not, we can work out ways of doing it. But you might have apps that just don't lend themselves to this, and then what's the program to replace that with something else? Okay, so we have 2 minutes. Let's do
2 minutes.
Let's riff on the agentic architecture a little bit more, right? Yeah. So again, selfishly from a Microsoft perspective, we're seeing a lot more Claude turning up.
Yeah.
So Microsoft's released, as I said before, Co-work into Copilot. We're seeing the Claude models appearing more in Foundry.
I think that's key as well. Microsoft, which is something we talk about when we build agentic solutions, is it's not about building point solutions or agents that do. It is about having agents that do specific jobs, but we need to have a platform where they can all talk to each other. Microsoft have realized that. Previously, it was you could only use the GPT models. They know that everyone needs Anthropic in their organization, so that's now an option for you.
Yes.
Without that, and it's that being dynamic and iterative and changing quickly.
Yeah, so if any of you are Microsoft customers now and have Copilot licenses today, Co-work is actually free for now. It won't stay free, but fire it up and it's absolutely incredible. Rinse it while you've got it, because at the moment it's covered in your Copilot license. And I mean, we use it all the time. It's really good at certain things.
It's what Copilot should have been 2 years ago.
Don't say that, Jack. You can't say that in public. It might be someone might be recording us. They are recording us. So just to recap in the final minutes, I think it's having a strategic approach to it. It's getting the senior leadership on board. It's having a program to get your staff trained, ready, and changing the culture to use this stuff. It's understanding your tech estate. It's working out what those agent use cases are going to be. And then starting both with your people and coming in with those high value use cases at the same time.
Yeah.
drop the mic.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.